Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from the United States, English language, released in the year 2016, directed by Travis Z, and this film is called Cabin Fever. So Cabin Fever is about a group of friends who go to this picturesque remote community in a cabin, and when they get there, they're hassled by the locals. The locals don't really want them there for reasons that they're not aware of, but they're going to realise that very soon when a flesh-eating virus infects one of these friends. So one of the friends, it has to be in quarantine. They're all paranoid about what's going to happen next, and little do they know that the locals have caught on to what's going on, and the locals will stop at nothing in order to try and contain this virus from spreading, even if it means going to very brutal lengths. So not only do they have to contest with the virus jumping from one person to another, but also the violence that is about to be inflicted upon them by these vicious locals. So it's going to descend into an all-out nightmare, and what that nightmare is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now, my thoughts on Cabin Fever. I had a lot of hesitations coming into this movie. Number one, it only has 3.7 on IMDb. Now, I know better than to judge a film on IMDb, but when it's that low, it's very hard to shake off. And I also had the hesitations about a remake. Now, I think that remakes can work, especially Hills Have Eyes and The Last House on the Left, where it took the tradition of the original, but it actually made it a better film. And so a lot of remakes don't do this, because I feel a lot of remakes have a lot of fear in them, that they don't want to ruin the movies that they're based on, so they tend to have basically a shot-for-shot remake, and you're constantly left thinking, why did you even bother doing this? It's either a shot-for-shot remake or it's a much more watered-down version, which is definitely what Martyrs was when it was based on that French classic. So the remakes are very hit and miss, and majority of the time it is miss, and that's exactly what I was expecting from Cabin Fever, and that's exactly what I got. But having said that, although the movie does have problems, I still thought it was a very enjoyable film, but the movie really has to be taken on its own. If you haven't seen the original, you're going to enjoy this movie a lot more, but if you are a lover of the original, you're not really going to like this film, is because it is a strong case of deja vu. But pushing that all aside, I thought that it looked very good, and it had the quirkiness that made the original very unique. And so I just thought it understood exactly what Cabin Fever is. And so I didn't love Cabin Fever, the original, but I could appreciate it for what it was trying to do. It was trying to shake things up a little bit, and it was a very fun atmosphere, and it didn't require great acting, it didn't require great characters. It was all about seeing characters die in the worst possible way, and that's exactly what you get from this remake. I thought there were some very, very impressive gore scenes. I think it's a gorier than the original, and it just really steps up that disgusting nature. And although it's a very fun atmosphere, although it's a very quirky atmosphere, you still have that sense that this could happen in real life, because there are flesh-eating viruses out there. So there's a strong level of creepiness to the movie, but it's always elevated by that very quirky style, and so that's what you want from Cabin Fever, and that's what Travis Z delivers. And so the acting, as I said, wasn't great, but then again, it wasn't bad. You know, the characters are annoying, and it does have the stereotypical sort of teenage or young adult storytelling, in that they're having sex, they're being very vulgar to each other, and then all of a sudden, you know, really bad things are happening. And so yeah, the cinematography was very good. It looks very good, and overall, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was very entertaining, but here's where the problem lies, in that it doesn't have a soul of its own. And so I left thinking, this is a shot-for-shot remake done by a director who doesn't have any confidence. He liked the original, and he didn't want to do too much to the original to try and ruin it, so he wasn't taking risks. And if you're not taking risks, you feel deja vu, and you feel, why is this movie even being made? This is not an old film that it's based on, so I don't understand why you would actually make it into a film, you know, into another film. Is that you've got Wes Craven originals that were made in the 70s, but they were in the 70s, and so they've been remade into a much more modern day version. But when you've got a movie like Cabin Fever that was made not long ago, I felt to myself, well, it's not too different in the nature that the movie is depicted on. So what is the difference here? In that it doesn't look it looks a little bit sharper in its visuals, but it doesn't have that much of a difference to actually warrant this movie to even be made. And so I just thought to myself, it was kind of pointless in its exercise in trying to make a remake when you're not taking risks, and when you're not trying to make an identity of your own, and it's just a movie that didn't take... Basically, a movie that was staying confined to the boundaries of safety, in that Eli Roth made a very successful film, so the director was emulating that success by making a movie that was just a carbon copy. So that's something I really didn't like. But as I said, if you are new to Cabin Fever and you haven't seen the original, I think you're going to enjoy this movie. But if you are a lover of the original, you're not really going to enjoy this, because you're just going to say to yourself, why am I just watching this movie again? And so ultimately, that is the biggest killer. But having said that, it's still an entertaining horror film, and it's one that I'd recommend with a bit of popcorn, with a group of friends, and as a result of that, I'm going to give Cabin Fever 2.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.